When a powerful chestnut colt with a fluent stride entered the lives of trainer Jim Maloney and jockey Pat Hyland, nothing could ever be the same again. The colt went on to become arguably the best sprinter miler in Australian turf history. His name, Vane.
First day I said, oh, we're getting him broken in up at Berwick. And they said, oh, we'd like to go up and have a look at him. So we went up to Berwick to see the horse, and he was tied up to a hitching rail, and he was lying down, tied up. I thought to myself, I don't know whether this horse is going to be a champion or not. He looked pretty bedraggled in the state he was in on that occasion.
Vane may not have looked a champion that day, but it wasn't long before things were looking up.
It was a 2 furlong jump out at Mentone, and we didn't want to show him up too much because by that stage we had known that he had a good deal of ability. And we thought we'd jump out and just go half a furlong and pull him up. But I couldn't pull him up. He ran quicker time than any other trial, and well, he was just too good for them.
His first trip to the races was for the Debutante Stakes at Caulfield.
That particular day he was too fast, and he came out of the boxes and stumbled. And, well, I thought that's the finish of that. It was a 900-metre race. And I thought that's the finish of that. And Shako was a horse from Adelaide, and he was pretty well fancied. He was in odds on. But he picked himself up and he went on and won the race. Unfortunately, he hurt his joint. He was always bandaged in the stable after that.
After an 8-length win in the Maribyrnong Plate, Vane was rested until the autumn.
And now Hyland releases the brakes, and it's going to be a matter of Vane first and the rest nowhere. Vane's won it about 8 lengths.
At his next start, he continued on his winning way, first up in the Merson Cooper Stakes. Next stop, the VRC Sire's Produce.
At the furlong, Hyland looks round. He still won't release the brakes. At 6 in front, Vane. Now he says you can stretch out a little bit, and Vane comes down to the line.
Maloney and Hyland were now convinced that they had the 2-year-old who would become the first Victorian to win the Rich Golden Slipper Stakes.
On the day there was great excitement naturally, and I just walking out of the mounting yard, and Jim Maloney turned to me and he said, Jack, Vane will win. And Jim very rarely says that. I went out and backed Vane at 1. Well, it's the first Victorian to win.
Racing this time, Special Girl flew out of the boxes, however Vane got out better.
Vane jumped brilliantly from the boxes, and well, you know, looking back on it, it was terribly easy. You know, he just spaced them. I never saw a horse the whole race. From the time we left the barrier, I never saw a horse at all. And, you know, it was quite a good feeling.
Special Girl, and they're followed by Del Riado, then Natal Lass. At the head of the others, Brooklyn Maid, Lady Cleave's Constant Rhythm, then Gaelic Spirit and Toddmaster, and Peter's Empire last of all, but Vane the leader as they made the run around the turn. Well clear of Special Girl, hard ridden by Moore. Then a gap to Del Riado, followed by Natal Lass, Ophelia. At the head of the others, Lady Cleave's, the leader Vane in the straight. Under the whip, Special Girl not making much impression. They're followed by Del Riado and Gaelic Spirit finishing on well, but the Victorian Colt Vane has got it shot to bits. Safely holding Special Girl and Del Riado and Peter's Empire flashing home along the rail, but Vane is all too good, and Vane in the run of the judge, a big winner. Second, Peter's Empire. Third, Gaelic Spirit, then Del Riado.
It was terribly emotional feeling for all of us, because I think the year before, the season before, we'd won 1 race in the bush from the stable. And, you know, and then to get a horse like Vane, to be able to go there and win the richest race in Australia, or richest 2-year-old race anyway, it was an emotional time, and it was probably one of those periods of time where you didn't really get the full climax of it until some time after. You know, I find myself now talking more saner and more sensible about Vane than I did when Vane was there.
Vane was now being compared with Todman. Coincidentally, Vane did manage to emulate Todman in the AJC Sire's Produce at Randwick. Both colts were sent out 6-1 on favourite, and both were beaten.
I told the owners, I said, if we're going to get beaten in a race, this could be it. But I said, if we get beaten, we'll still have a horse.
With the benefit of a hard run in the sires, Vane returned to his brilliant best.
That was his best run in Sydney, including the Golden Slipper. I think that through having had a couple of runs around that way, he started to get to like it.
Vane's stake earnings of just under $85,000 were the highest ever for a 2-year-old. He was the golden boy of Australian racing. Before he commenced his 3-year-old year, an offer of $1 million was made by American interests. Owners Wally, Fred and George Johnson refused the offer.
I can remember Frank Thompson from Widden Stud, he came down here to see him at these stables. And he said, someone said to him, that's the horse, would you know, and they tendered for him. And he just stood there leaning over the door for 10 minutes. And they were trying to get him away to look at other horses, but he just kept walking back to Vane. He was wrapped in him, you know, he was enraptured by him.
He commenced his 3-year-old year winning the Weight for Age Freeway Stakes by 5 lengths under a tight hold. In the Ascot Vale, he won in similar fashion.
Yes, I got suspended on him. That's probably one of the most unforgivable things that any jockey should to say they were suspended riding Vane, because he had so much speed on the others. But I think it was just probably overconfidence that caused that. And it was a pretty good field, the Ascot Vale. Darrell's Joy and Woodcourt Inn. They, you know, after that they proved that they were pretty good horses.
Highland was replaced by Roy Higgins and watched the Moonee Valley Stakes from the grandstand.
I suppose if he was ever going to be beaten again, that was the race, because it was his first attempt at a mile. And a mile at Moonee Valley is probably the hardest mile of all. And he went into it with a strange jockey. Not that that throws any light on Roy, but, you know, I knew the horse backwards.
Vane gained revenge over Darrell's Joy in the Caulfield Guineas, beating him easily by 3 lengths. Darrell's Joy went on to win the Cox Plate and the Victoria Derby. But it was during the 1969 Melbourne Cup Carnival that Vane sealed his greatness. In the space of just 7 days, he won 3 feature events, the first of which was the Craven A Stakes.
The plaudits of the crowd is out 8 lengths in front of Dollars Double and Our Faith, and how about this for a machine? And he's got 20,000 for that. Vane went on to win by 10 lengths.
Vane's winning margin of 12 lengths is the biggest ever recorded in a major handicap. On Oaks Day, Vane smashed the course record for 7 furlongs at Flemington in winning the Weight for Age Linlithgow Stakes, beating the class racehorse Black Onyx by 6 lengths. Vane completed his Cup Carnival assault in the George Adams handicap over a mile, carrying 10 pounds more than Weight for Age. Unfortunately, it was to be Vane's last race, as he suffered a leg injury while preparing for a return to racing the following autumn.
I'd never seen a horse win with the ease that he used to win with, you know, and he's only got beaten twice out of 14 starts, so I think that I don't like comparing him with other fellas' horses, because you don't want to make enemies over things like that, but he was a pretty special horse, very special.
Vane was such a great horse, and probably he came at a time when both Jim and I, we needed that type of horse, and it was like a gift from heaven.
Vane was retired to Widden Stud in the Hunter Valley of New South Wales, where he went on to prove that he was the complete horse, a champion on the racetrack and at the stud.